Hello everyone, FTDZMMAY here, back with some more Bloons Sea Battles 2. Been a while since I actually made a video, but back in the swing of things now, back to regular upload schedule hopefully. And so of course if you haven't been paying attention for the last few, I guess, weeks or last season, Druid Sub-Farm of course is meta, and well basically the only way I've found that consistently actually beat Druid Sub-Farm is hope that your opponent is bad at playing Druid Sub-Farm. Really, it's not really the best solution in my opinion, but I mean, it works well. Obviously, if you're playing against Druid Sub-Farm and Hollow Masters or something, or even like ZOMG, I figured that it's probably not even worth trying at this point, as you really can't do much against it. Honestly, the best advice I can realistically give is, I guess, run farms just like they're doing and greed as much as possible in order to defend, and of course send your own all out as well. That's really what farms are kind of mainly used for, as well as being pretty decent late game. Even though it does no damage, the money generation you are able to make outscales Bloon Eco by a lot in my opinion, and so just the sheer amount of money you're able to make makes late game pretty easy if you do have some decent late game towers, which of course Druid of course is. Now I am kind of curious to see, like, do you actually intentionally leak lives in order to boost your Druid early game? I've seen that with Druid I sub, but I haven't really seen it here. And of course, going with Boomer Super Village, Boomerang decides to be stupid here, so I decide to actually have to boost in order to defend greens. And even then, it's still not doing too well, which forced me to get red hot rangs. And so, yeah, you know, Boomerang targeting, you know, being dumb, of course, is nothing too new, but it is very annoying when it happens. But, you know, it's kind of whatever. Going with Boomer Super Village here, I wasn't really intending to win this game, or I guess wasn't really trying to win this game. I figured I was probably going to lose, seeing as never actually played Boomer Super Village before. It's just kind of a strat I saw and thought, you know, hey, it'd be pretty good. Boomer does allow you to greed really hard early game with a ricochet, as well as, you know, more glaives. It's pretty good for, of course, round 11. He sold his farm, which is a bit interesting. He didn't even upgrade it at all. I'm guessing he wanted pixel perfect placement, but that did lose him some money. I don't really think it was worth it in the grand scheme of things, as, you know, you do lose some money when you, of course, sell towers. So that does put him a bit behind in farming, but it really shouldn't, you know, kind of hurt him too much. Going with, you know, Druid Sub-Farm, you can greed pretty heavily in the early game. Like, you know, 203 defends for a really long time. Of course, it's not really as broken as Bomb, being able to solo all the way up to like round 11, and then really around 13 you just get like 2 clusters and then boom, you're done. And really the only thing I guess Bomb really struggles against is, you know, 16 with ceramics, but you can easily counter that by just, you know, using the Biker Bones ability, or by just, you know, getting another recursive cluster. I have, you know, actually tried out, or it's not like tried out, I've thought about playing Druid Sub-Farm, but, you know, kind of looking at the strategy, DT defense really relies on you greeting heavily in the early game with, you know, of course, Druid and everything, because really your only DDT defense is, you know, preemptive, first strike, and superstorm. Superstorm and preemptive are probably the most reliable. You could try to first strike micro, but on 28 you're probably dead, especially if they could just layer with like tight ceramics. So really, I don't really want to play that strategy, simply just because, you know, I don't really play farm strategies too much. I have started trying out farm strategies, you know, kind of now, but farms isn't really something I like to play. I kind of do like to play pure eco or alt eco strategies, as those are the most fun, but it's kind of whatever. Now he goes for a plantation, which is actually kind of interesting. Looking at his farms, he doesn't really seem to be farming all that hard just looking at it, and seeing from the farm games that I've played, as well as, you know, watching other people play farms, having only a 320 plantation and a 200 farm on run 10 is actually kind of poor. Usually by now, you usually see something like a, you know, marketplaces around this time. Like, you know, 3 200s into a marketplace. I'm not really sure if plantation is really the play here, as I have seen a lot of people just kind of go for, you know, of course, marketplaces. Now I am short of camo, which isn't really a good thing. I greeted a little bit too hard on like rounds 10 and whatnot. I decided to see if I can bait out camos, but, you know, I figured it probably wasn't even worth it, so I just decided to get camo detection anyways, and just kind of focusing on generating as much eco as possible. I did miss out on the spaced rainbows, which is a little bit sad, but it's whatever. But by round 13, I've seen people who were able to actually, get to marketplaces. So it's actually kind of good for me seeing that, hey, I actually have a shot here. Seeing as he only has like 2 plantations, which isn't really a whole lot. Yes, plantations I do believe are more efficient than marketplaces, but of course the increased sellback, as well as, having a good lead into Wall Street is huge. So yeah, 16 was coming up soon, so I guess kind of hover over super, as again, ceramics do like wreck Morglaives really really hard. If you're ever against a boomer user, just send them ceramics, they'll probably choke, maybe. But anyways, just kind of like wondering, like, what do I even do against ceramics? I was thinking maybe just like a kind of a 0-2-0 super. I don't really play the strategy too much, but thankfully he does send out ceramics, so I can actually, try and see what to actually do here. They do break the brambles pile, and super does sort of defend, but I feel like if he sent more ceramics, I'd be screwed. So, looking at my opponent's side, nothing I can really do against him, seeing as he has a ballistic missile and 2-3-0 Druid. I assume he could just boost and easily be able to defend. I decided to keep Super Monkey, as I figured, hey, why not use Super Monkey for like mob defense and just get knocked back, and hopefully that would be more than enough to know where to actually beat the mob. I am kind of not really greeting or like sending eco as much as I really should, just because again, he could all out at any time, and I don't really like want to risk it. I'm looking at his side, kind of debating whether or not I actually should send a mob of my own, seeing as he does have 2 brambles piles, and trying to get past those will be a bit tough. I figured, hey, why not? If this game gets to ZOMGs, I'm screwed anyway, since I'm not ecoing as much as I should. Seeing how bad knockback super was, I figured it'd probably just be best if I sold it for like mob press. I decided, maybe it'd just be better if I just sold Super Monkey just for more rushes. This was just kind of my Hail Mary kind of all out, and just figured that hopefully he chokes and I can actually win here. I figured if this game gets to ZOMGs, I lose. But anyways, just kind of rushing them as much as possible. He started ballistic missile spamming, which I'm not really sure if that's a play, but GG anyways. Now here, trying out the old meta, being, DFN, being on Dark Farm Ninja, I decided to do it with Churchill instead of DJ Benjamin, simply just because I figured that, Churchill would probably do a bit better, seeing as, with these huge rushes that, Druid sub-farm players are easily able to do. I figured it'd probably be better if I actually got Churchill just for the laser bombs, as well as having a better early game so I can greed harder. Since, Ben's kind of pure support, I can't really greed as much. I figured that Churchill would probably be a lot better for greeting, but I am kind of debating, whether or not should I be going for a round 2 Churchill or should I not. I kind of figure no, simply just because for round 12 I'm not really struggling too hard. This guy leaks down to exactly, or not exactly, almost exactly 60 lives, which is actually kind of impressive. But I do believe that you're only supposed to go for 70 when you're going for Druids. And I'm also still not sure if leaking lives early game is something you should actually be doing. But again, I don't really play that strategy too much in order to actually know. So honestly, I was just kind of like going for some space deco to hopefully maybe get past Druid a bit and force him to upgrade to like lightning. Really just kind of slowing down his farms as much as possible. I didn't really like dedicate that too much to it. I was just kind of like whatever. I figured that space to yellows might actually get past him, since he doesn't have lightning. He just has the the pierce upgrade. And plus, he did leak a lot of lives. He ends up having to boost. I accidentally boost against, just kind of looking back. It wasn't really the play. Even said oops there, just because it wasn't really completely ideal. Now you'll see here for round 5 is where I'm actually able to get sort of greed, since Churchill does pretty good. I'm able to get away with just a powerful darts, which I think for round 5 for Dartling you need an 022 for round 5 instead of so I could save like $750 that I can invest in farms, which I guess is pretty nice. Now I must say, after the Darling nerf, Darling's actually pretty fun to actually play now. I don't feel scummy for abusing a broken tower. I won't really say broken, but just a stronger than it should be tower. And it's actually, a pretty fun tower to play with. So, I guess expect to see more Darling later on. Now for round 6, I don't really have to do much. I just have to get an 022, seeing as I don't necessarily need Churchill for round 6. 022 actually is able to solo round 6 by itself, which is pretty nice. Although I guess here is kind of where you prefer, DJ Ben, seeing as, you do have the money generation from DJ Ben, as well as the fact that, you still have to buy 022 regardless. So I guess there's that, but again, I still do think that Churchill would probably do a bit better here. Also, another thing is for round 7, if your opponent is actually going for eco or alt eco strategies, I do believe that Churchill and 022 can solo round 7. I do believe that if they do send round 7 yellows, you do have to either, upgrade another Darling into 022, or you have to use like DJ bendability or like boost or kind of whatever, as I don't think that one 022 has enough in the tank in order to actually be able to beat round 7 yellows. So I guess there's kind of that. I have seemed to have caught up slightly in farms, although I guess I should say that as he goes for plantation, which is actually kind of interesting. I kind of assume that, marketplaces were the play to go here, as again, I just kind of see people go for marketplaces into, central markets, and of course into Wall Street. Regen zebras won't actually do anything here, as again, Churchill I don't necessarily need at this point. He's just kind of nice to have. Now, because I was way too focused on fording HRP by next round, I accidentally was sending, purples instead of zebras, which I guess maybe might have hurt me, but I guess maybe not. Now, kind of looking at his defense, I definitely could have done something to him for round 11, forced him to maybe buy ballistic missile, and maybe like break the bramble pile, but I wasn't necessarily looking at my opponent's side. Anyways, grouped spaced rainbows are pretty efficient, although unfortunately they only show up for one round. I wonder if maybe in next update NK will maybe, do something to where you can actually utilize spaced rainbows for more than like 30 seconds. Well, I guess maybe not, seeing as, if it's like if you miss it, you miss it. It goes for a second plantation. I definitely should have gone in on 13 here, but I decided to be a little bit safe here, as I probably could have forced him to panic sell as well as, get ballistic missile, but I didn't actually do that. Of course, he is ahead of me in farm, so I was kind of scared that, if he sold a plantation and rushed, I wasn't necessarily sure if I can defend that. But in round 15, I decided, it probably would be a good idea to go in and force some defense, as well as get ballistic missile. So just kind of hoping I can break through the bramble pile, and hopefully that'll actually be enough to actually win here. End up boosting against, he doesn't actually get B missile in time, he just gets an 022. And this is how I beat Druid sub farm players. Hope they're bad at the game and don't actually get ballistic missile up in time for round 11 or round 13. Really the only realistic way I can actually think of beating Druid sub farm players. This definitely won't work in Hollow Masters, but I mean, I guess you can try.